All right, we are going to go to tab 12, which is the problem gambling presentation, and I'm going to let Lisa McLean do that in place of the director.
Yes, this refers back to our October meeting where at the start of the meeting, we got a comment from the public, and we've included that in this packet, and that referred to what was going on at the National Council on Problem Gambling and at the national level in terms of federal legislation. We got a little bit more information that we put into this packet about that federal legislation and what the status of that is. And we've put that there. And what you all asked us was to make sure that we get that to the Disordered Gambling Advisory Work Group, which we did pass on to them as is evidenced by the letter in the packet. And the meeting was yesterday. Director Griffin attended that meeting. She was not able to give me a download of that meeting, or the deputy director, I don't believe. But also I know that Vice Chair Patterson, I believe, was at that meeting. So I don't know if there's anything that you want to report on.
I was not there. I was not at the meeting in my capacity as a gambling commissioner. I'm not asking for per diem. I'm an interested citizen. So I think it would be best if the comments come from our executive director. Yeah. Gary
Drumheller, Deputy Director. I did receive a few notes from Director Griffin to pass on that we did reach out to the National Council to get more information on the GRIT Act. There is proposed legislation going forward, and the act has not been introduced yet, but Senator Richard Blumenthal from Connecticut, it looks like he's going to introduce something in January of 24. As far as the amount of funding, that's unclear as to what Washington would receive at this point until obviously more information goes forward to the Senate, and they put something in progress. So the commissioners, you could vote to support the GRIT Act, in which in turn will allow us to write a letter in support of this legislation.
Okay, we can vote to support that, or we can just stay silent. Is that kind of
correct? Yes.
Or thoughts on that?
do we have a summary of the GRIT Act?
Yeah. It's in your packet.
Can't find it.
It's basically about the fact that at the national level, there hasn't been any money assigned to problem gambling. It's about creating that a fund to that extent, and it's got some details in here. Just some.
Russell just chimed in, so maybe she just joined the meeting.
Thanks.
Senator Conway, did you have something?
Yeah, I have a question, because I think that in the Problem Gambling Task Force, we are working on the issue of Medicaid reimbursement for problem gambling. And, that's a very important way of improving services for problem gamblers if they are eligible for Medicaid support as well. And I would suggest that before we jump in and endorse a bill, we make sure we know what's in it and make sure it conforms with what the task force was working on in terms of federal help. I'm not sure. Roxanne was working on that Medicaid. The Healthcare Authority was working on that Medicaid reimbursement issue, and so I just suggest that it's great if they're going to give us money for problem gambling. Obviously, we should take it. I'm not arguing against that, but I am suggesting that we may want to be visiting with the sponsor of this bill about our work on problem gambling and some of the issues that came up, especially Medicaid reimbursement. I can't tell you that that's that is a critical way of helping people who have problem gambling problems be, to be helped. And I just, especially people who are eligible for Medicaid. So I just hope that as we work toward this endorsing a bill there, that we actually, I would suggest, Julia, that the problem gambling, that you and Roxanne work on this a little bit, because I don't mind endorsing a bill there, but let's make sure we also include some of the issues that are important for our state as well.
So, Madam Chair, Senator, or Steve, I want to tell you that I think that the state of Washington has just recently been granted the authority to use Medicaid funding for problem gambling. That's what I understand. That's what I heard.
January 24th.
Yeah.
It's in the minutes from October.
And so we have been successful through our work and through the healthcare authorities' work. We've been successful there. But I think that your point is well taken. I mean, before we ask for money out of their general fund or whatever, we ought to take a look at that funding and see if it's reasonable to just highly support Medicaid funding.
Well, I just,
It's federal money.
I don't know what the bill is doing here, but how is it distributed? Is it distributed on a per capita basis, I would presume?
Block grants.
A block grant, is that what they're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we'd be applying for a block grant is what would be happening here, I guess. Is there anything else in that bill besides just the financial help for problem gambling?
Substance use disorders, from what I can see, and it essentially looks like it kind of initially adds gambling addiction to those behavioral health issues that are within the substance use disorder family.
Being eligible for block grants.
That's what it looks like it does to me.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, all that sounds very good, but did the group yesterday endorse this bill?
No. There was no action like that taken yesterday. Yesterday was mainly an introduction of the people that are serving on the committee. And then there was a brief summary rundown by Roxanne of the work of the Problem Gambling Task Force and what it is that the committee would be doing in the future.
Okay.
But they haven't jumped into taking policy positions.
I don't see a problem with it. It seems like they're trying to serve problem gamblers, but it would be, I'm sorry, I didn't get a chance to review it in my packet, so I'm probably asking questions here that I could have answered if I'd reviewed it. But anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, it seems to me like there are still some detail that would be beneficial for us to have as to exactly how the bill would affect block grants to the state of Washington for gambling addiction. So I don't know if our next meeting is going to be in January, correct? So perhaps, staff can do some more research and then give us the kind of the details of what this potential program is, the impact to the state of Washington, and then at maybe the January meeting, especially even if they had a draft, it would be helpful to send, I think, maybe under the signature of the chair, a letter to our senators and Congress members to co-sign on the legislation.
Absolutely. I wonder if I could just follow up on that, but I wonder if there's a statewide delegation that will go to DC and whether or not we might be able to talk them into adding that as one of their requests.
Well, and yeah, I mean, timing of Nickel G's is interesting because that's the week before our legislative session begins. So perhaps we could get some conversations there, as well as maybe see what kind of, what we can ask Nickel G's essentially to do to advocate for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it sounds like the timing is now, I mean, coming up this winter for pushing this one way or the other.
Has this bill been introduced in this already? Is it out there? Have they
January,
had hearings on the bill at all, or is it just a concept bill right now?
it hasn't, according to the.
It has
report
not been
here.
introduced. It has not been introduced. In my conversations with National Council on Problem Gambling, they were looking for co-sponsors. So the idea of a letter to our delegation sounds like an interesting idea, but I think that the legislative process actually is going to begin in one house in the Congress in January,
Which house?
in the Senate.
And when would the best timing be for us to get one of our, to get Cantwell or Murray to sign on? I mean, how much time do we have to put that in front of them?
If it's going to be introduced in January, it can,
Yeah.
at any time, it can basically have co-sponsors join. So from January onward, and even now. They're looking for, to introduce it in the House. There's no concrete sponsor in the House right yet.
Would it make sense for the Gambling Commission to ask our senators to sign on to the bill as a commission? After we're comfortable knowing what it is? And if we have to wait until January to decide to do that, would that be too late?
I don't think it would be too late with if we think about the way that legislation goes through the federal Congress, the fact that it gets introduced in January, I think we've got plenty of time to decide what action you want.
And in Congress, do the signatures have to be gathered before it's introduced, or?
No,
I'd like to see that happen if we like what's being. Commission took a position that I think would give our senators attention much more so than just a letter from one of us or something.
So we would need to make sure that's on the January agenda. Take action at that time. We decide.
The action would be for the commission to take a position and then decide.
Yes. What I'm understanding.
That's what, I would recommend for us.
Okay, do we have any public comment on this?